Now what you're about to witness is the pork pie experiment. The air fryer is a standard air fryer. There is no bake settings on this air fryer. Hey, welcome to Backyard Chef. I'm Rick. Today I am going to do something which is unbelievable. We are going to make a pork pie. Now, okay, that's not unbelievable. We've made a pork pie many times on this channel and many of you have watched it, many of you commented. Now I'm going to make a big pork pie and we're going to do it in the air fryer. Now I've never seen that done, so we're going to do it. We're going to show you how to make a huge pork pie and we're going to cook it in the air fryer. So this is a two-stage process. You know, we're going to chop up the meat, we're going to put some mince in. I'm not using all cubed meat now. All cubed meat is what was traditionally used in a pork pie, but I'm mixing both so we can get that good mouthfeel when we eat our pork pie. So I'm mixing mince and I'm mixing pork shoulder. A little bit of seasoning in there. We've got thyme, sage, black pepper, salt, no more than that. Okay, we're going to mix it all up, stick it in a bag, put it in the fridge, take it out tomorrow and make the pork pie. So let's get on and show you how to do this. So in a bowl, we're chucking in our pork mince. I've got a nice piece of pork shoulder here and we need to cube it small. Now it's got to be cubed up small because it's got to all mat together inside the pork pie. Now like I say, pork pies traditionally were all cubes of meat, but you know, to get that mouthfeel and get a really good pork pie, we're going to mix cube of meat and the mince. Now it's really easy to do, to be quite fair. All we need to do is take our pork shoulder and we just need to cube it into decent bits of cubes. Now it doesn't really matter about following grain or anything like that. Let's just have some reasonably cubed pieces of meat. So we're looking at that really. Nice steady bits of cubed meat and we'll chuck it in our bowl with our mince. Now if you've managed to make the pork pies before on the channel, let me know how they turned out. You know, bob a comment in there. Tell me how you went on. Was it a failure? Did you manage to do it, you know? I mean, come on. It's easy. Easy as cooking really. We don't do so much. Season up some meat, make some pastry and put it in the oven. But this time, we'll try it in that air fryer. You know, and the reason for this, I've got so many people saying, do me an air fryer recipe, do me an air fryer recipe. You know, and there's a lot of people who don't have air fryers, I realise that. So, by picking this one, it's a bit of a challenge. You know, but we've already got a pork pie recipe on the channel, so anybody that wants to make a pork pie can just make the pork pie, and then anybody that wants to make a pork pie in the air fryer can follow this. It's exactly the same recipe, but it's going to be cooked in there. So that's a bit of waffling on really. If you want to leave a comment below, whatever, let me know if you like pork pie, where you live in, if you can get it or can't get it. You know, we can get it here, but it's very expensive, but it's easy to make. So there's no point trying to go get somebody else's homemade pie when you can do a homemade pie yourself. So that's our last piece of meat there, look. And all we're going to do is finish cubing it. In there, get rid of that, put our bowl there so you can see what's going on in that camera. There's our spices, choom, in they go. Now mix with a spoon or mix with your hands. Get your hands in, give it a mix. You know, we're not making sausages, we don't want a sticky mass We just want all those spices round that meat. That's all. So it's not very hard to mix up at all. It's quite easy actually. You know, we're not trying to, like I say, we're not trying to make sausages, so it doesn't have to be one sticky mass. Just make sure that the salt and the pepper and the herbs are all around that meat, and we're really good to go. So I think that's about it really. All we've got to do is give a wash of the hands so we can get a couple of plastic bags. And we can put it in plastic bags and shove it in the fridge. Right, so what we're going to do then, we've got a couple of bags, and what we're going to do is stuff the meat in a bag. That's it basically. It's so simple. You know, I keep saying it's so simple, but it's nothing more simple than putting meat in a bag. So get that in there, squash it in there. And then what we're going to do, we're going to tie one up, we're going to put it in another bag, we're going to double wrap it, because what's probably going to happen, with the salts and the herbs that's in there, there might be a little bit of moisture come out of there, you know, it might draw a little bit of moisture out. I don't want it leaking in the fridge. Squash that in there. Put another band on there. And that goes in the fridge until tomorrow. As easy as that. So I'll put that in the fridge, join me tomorrow, and let's see if making this giant, and it is a giant pork pie in the air fryer is unbelievable. Catch you tomorrow. So in a bowl then we've got our flour, and we're just going to add the salt. You know, this is an easy pastry to make. It's hot water crust pastry. It is so simple. So this is our dry ingredients. All we need to do is give it a mix in. So we'll mix in the salt with the flour, put to one side, and then we've got to crack on with the hot water fats bit. You know, it's so simple. This is out of a packet. This is butter and shortening, and I'm just adding some water. We're going to bring it up to a reasonable temperature just to melt the fats. We have to melt the fats in there. Now be careful, obviously if you splash yourself and it's hot, it's fat in here and not just water. So as soon as it's all melted, with it being hot water crust pastry, we tip the fats into the flour. Stir it all in. Now this is red hot, so you can't put your hands in here yet. Stir it all in with the flour. Try and get it as much incorporated as possible. And then we're going to mix it with our hands. But don't forget, this stuff is still quite warm. So just tip it on the counter, and we need to bring it all together. Now, hot water crust pastry is not hard to bring together. It's very soft, it's supple, and with it being hot with the fats, it's easy to bring together. Like I say, be careful because it can still be quite warm in the middle. So once you brought it all together, we need to separate this into two lots actually, because there's quite a lump here. We're going to separate it, we're going to put it in bags, we're going to put it in the fridge for an hour. So just separate it into two lots and either cover it in cling film or put it in plastic bags like I do. I put it in a plastic bag, and then what you've got to do, you've got to try and flatten it out. Flatten it out the best you can. It just makes it easier for rolling. You know, if you take it out of the fridge and it's only cooled and not set up, you can roll it straight away. Now, if you leave it in the fridge longer than an hour, it sets up quite firm with the fats in the flour. And then you might just have to bring it together with your hands to warm it up before you roll it out. It's a very forgiving pastry. It's fantastic. I use it for a lot of pies. It's so easy to work with. A lot easier than short crust pastry really. It's tasty too. So that's flattened out quite nicely. Like I say, all we're going to do is we're going to stick it in the fridge for about an hour. Okay, let the challenge begin. Now, you know, I think the air fryer can be used for an awful lot more than we use it for. You know, we're going to make this pork pie in there. I don't know if it's going to work. We're going to find out. We're going to find out together, actually. So what we need to do is roll out some pastry to actually fit our tin. And our tin is about a 7-inch. Here's a tape measure. 7-inch. That is a 7-inch by 2 3/4, somewhere in there. Right, tape measure gone. We measure nothing. What we need to do, we need to get our pastry out of here, and we need to roll it to fit that tin. So let's have our pastry out. Now, to be fair, I've not let it cool down that much because we need to get on with the video. Now, normally you would leave it an hour in the fridge. We haven't. Right, a bit of flour on there, a bit of flour on our pin, and then let's get our pastry on here. There we go. So just a little bit of flour on the top. Let's not go too crazy. And a bit on there. Now, I divided it 2/3, 1/3. Before someone says, where did you get the pastry for the lid? I've already put a third there ready for the lid, just to make it quicker and easier. So let's roll this out. Okay, we've got that rolled out there. Now I think this is going to break up because we didn't let it cool long enough, but you know, we'll see. We'll see. So we want this off here and into that tin. So we're going to have to roll it actually on our rolling pin today. Normally I can just pick it up, not this one. So it's not quite cold enough. So there's our tin. Okay, now what we've got to do is we've got to try and work it in nice and gently. This is actually soft pastry, but we'll get it in there. And we want an overhang, so make sure you keep an overhang. In we go. Break off a bit of pastry and just help it in. Lift up, push down. Lift up, push down. Push down into that corner. We want it right in there. We don't want air pockets. That is our pie base in there. So all we need to do is roll out the lid. We're not going to roll that just now. What we're going to do, we're going to get on with the meat mixture that goes in that pie. So remember the meat mixture from yesterday in our bowl. So there's our pork mixture in there. To that I'm going to add 50 grams of breadcrumbs. You're going to say, why are we adding breadcrumbs? Why are we adding a filler? Well, what's going to happen is when we cook the pork pie, even though the pork pies are normally cooked traditionally with square cubes of meat, we're using mince as well. So we're going to end up with a whole solid mass of meat. Now, if we put a little bit of breadcrumbs in there, it's going to give us a really nice mouthfeel, and it's not all going to be completely solid. So give that a good mixing in. Now this will be a first on YouTube, and it will be amazing. You know, I've never seen anybody cook a pork pie in an air fryer, and it's a standard air fryer, so it's so small. So this giant pie is going to be nearly to the size of that air fryer. So give this a good mixing in. Now the seasoning we put in yesterday is only a little bit of seasoning, you know, because a pork pie is pork. It's not overly seasoned at all. You know, it's only slightly seasoned. Right, so that is our pork mixture. Now while I've got a dirty hand, it's going to go in that pie. So all we need to do is get our meat mix in there and get it right into the bottom. Squash it right down into the bottom. Push it right up against the sides. Get it all the way in there. Squash out the air pockets if you can. We don't really want air pockets. Now what's going to happen, the meat is going to actually shrink inside when it cooks. That's obvious, you know. And then we're going to fill it with a gelatin jelly when it cools down. So squash that in there. Now what we're trying to do now, we're trying to work our hands round the side and make a dome. So if you work it round and push down in the sides like that, what you're doing, you're naturally doming up the middle. And then what's going to happen is, as the pie shrinks, you're still going to have a bit in the middle. And then when we fill it through the middle, it'll run round and down the sides. We need to crack an egg. Want an egg wash. So crack your egg in there. And let's beat up that egg in there. We need to just put that pork pie to one side. Okay, so what we need to do now, we need to put a bit of an egg wash around the top of there. This is our glue. Okay, and then we want our pastry on the top of there. What we need to do, we need to lightly just push down on there all the way around. Now that is going to seal our pastry to the pastry below. And then what we need to do, we need to take off the excess. So just get a knife. Just a normal bread knife will do. Come around there. Let's have that off there. Or should I say a normal butter knife, not a bread knife. Now what we need to do, we need to crimp up this properly. So it's one finger, two fingers. Nice and steady all the way around your pie. It looks a bit fancy at the moment, but it will all bake down. Okay, now before we egg wash this, we need to cut a hole in there. You know, this pie has got to vent. Now, I've got a bottle top, so we're cheating a little bit because I want a hole in the top of there. So just nice and gently. Now it's going to be a big hole, but that don't matter. Now hopefully that will come out of there. So what we need to do is we need to give this a really good egg washing on there. Now by using egg wash, it's going to give it that nice yellow sheen on the top of the pie. You can milk wash it if you so wish. If you don't use eggs, you can milk wash it and you will have a lighter colour on your pastry. Right, okay, what we need to do, we need to get this pie in that air fryer. Now, like I say, I have absolutely no idea if this will work. Now, we could have made a small pie to test and see if it works, but I don't see the point. I think if we cook this pie and the pie works, I've got a fantastic pork pie. It's as simple as that. So what we're going to do, we're going to get that in there. So this is going to be an experiment which you see and I see for the first time. So straight in our normal air fryer basket. Now I can see a problem right now. I can see the problem is that it's so small and that fan's whizzing around in there. It's going to dry this top out before it actually cooks the sides. So what we might have to do, we might have to cover the top with tin foil and then we'll carry on cooking. But it should work. So it's quite heavy, that. In there now, and we would normally cook about 170-ish, somewhere around about there for a pie, or 180. We're going to do this on 140 to start off with, and I'm going to put it on for 20 minutes. Then we're going to look at it to see what's happening with the top, and then we'll cook it a bit further. So it's a 140, actually it's on for 18 minutes, so let's just get it cooking and let's see what happens with our pie. And we've cleared all this mess away. Okay, that'll do. Let's just press, it's beeping. So what we need to do, ooh, yeah, just as I thought, look, that pie in there is cooking. Okay, it's cooking the top. I can see the meat cooking. Now, what we need to do, we're going to have to cover this. Now, this, believe it or not, is not a gadget for an air fryer. This is actually a broken sieve. But I keep all sorts of stuff like this because things like this are very useful for jobs like this. Just don't forget the air fryer is blowing around inside and it lifts everything up. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to actually put some tin foil on here. We have this super problem that we've got this vent hole. It's got to vent. So in the middle of here, we've got to have a vent hole. So we are just going to chuck that off, cut that off there. Right, what we need to do is we need to get this tin foil over that pie. I'm going to take this, and if it works, which it should do, we're going to feed, ow, that's hot. We're going to feed this over the top of there, like that. So we're going back in there. We're going to go for the same temperature to start off with. We're going to go for 140, but this time we're going to do 18 minutes straight out. Okay, we're bleeping. Let's have a look. Now, that seems to be doing its job. It's held it down. It doesn't smell like it's cooking fully as a pie would cook in the oven. So what we'll do is we'll put that back in there, and what we're going to do, we're going to put the temperature up to 160. 18 minutes. Now don't forget, if you're cooking a pie in the oven, you will be cooking it for about 50 minutes, a pie this size. So we are making an experiment here to show that you can cook a pork pie in an air fryer if you don't have an oven. Now, obviously, it's probably using less power than a normal convection oven, so it's going to be cheaper, but the time wise, because we're experimenting, it's going to be roughly the same time, I think. Okay, now if we were able to cook this at 160 right from the start, but I'm being a bit cautious because we want to get this pie out. If we were able to cook this at 160 right from the start, we could probably cook this in less time than you cook in an oven. Okay, let's have a look. Right, this time what we've got to do, we've got to get this off of here and have a look inside. Okay, the pie looks cooking, all right, and what I can see around the side of the pie. Now the pie is cooking, and I think by turning it up to the 160 was a very good idea. So what we're going to do, we're going to bob this back in again. It looks fantastic actually. So we're going to cook it 15 minutes, and I'm going to turn the temperature up actually. I'm going to turn it up to 170. Let's have a look. So we get that in there, on there. We're going up to 170. We've got 15 minutes, and we're going to cook it and see what happens. Okay, here we go then. Out it comes. Now what we are going to do now, we are going to remove this completely, I think. Ooh, that's hot. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to put this back in. We're going to put it in just in that oven like that, but we are going to watch it. It smells wonderful, but you know, let's get it back in. We're not going to take any chances. We're cooking quite a lot of meat in there. So we're going back for the 170. Let's hit it for about 8 minutes and see what happens. Okay, let's have a look in here. Bubbling away in there. And what we're going to do, we have to get that pie out of there, and we'll have to let it cool down. because what we want to be doing is putting some jelly in there when it's cooled down. So let's get that pie out. Oh, come on. Come on, come on. So let's cool down and then we'll make up some jelly and put the jelly in. This could well be amazing. Right, so our pie's cooled down just a little bit. In fact, actually, it's still red hot at the sides. But what we need to do, we need to get that jelly in there, cool it down. Now we can put it in the fridge and let it go cold. What we have to do, I know we've got this big air hole in the top here, but we have to make an air vent hole, because when we put the jelly in, the air has got to escape from around the pie. So what we need to do is look for an area. This is quite low down, and what we'll do is we'll punch it straight through and into the meat. Give it a wiggle round so we've got quite a decent hole. Okay, and then we want about 260 mils of water in there. Now this is boiling water, straight out of the kettle. And now you can use pork seasoning mix or chicken mix, it's up to you. We're going in there with our gelatin. So get our jelly in there and let's give it a mix in. We need to get that jelly in that hole. It'll soak all around the meat and the air hole will come out and it'll probably pop out of there with the fluid. He says. You see it blow out the air hole there? That means the jelly is all around there. Okay, so that's our pie made up. Let it cool down and then we're going to stick it in the fridge to go cold. To be fair, it looks very, very impressive to say it's come out of an air fryer. That looks really, really good. Okay, the moment of truth. Out of the fridge, here we go, is the pork pie. Now, before I cut into this pork pie, I want to give a big shout out to Smelly fella, Patrick, who is a Patreon of Backyard Chef. Now, without you making things a little easier for me, it would be a struggle. So, thank you very much, Smelly fella, Patrick, for your kind generosity in becoming a Patreon. Okay, let's crack on and open this. Oh, that is not quite as brown as I would have liked, but it is cooked. That is superb. Oh, it's a thick pie. Oh. The moment of truth. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. Oh. That is amazing. So there's your answer. Yes, you can cook a pork pie in a regular air fryer. Bit of messing, but you can do it. So if you don't have an oven, you have an air fryer, yes, you can cook the pork pie. That is fantastic. Now, if you like what we're doing, don't forget, smash that like and subscribe, share with your friends, all that kind of stuff. Catch you in the next video.